Sri Lanka's most powerful news brand.
Good evening to you. Let me bring to your attention what happened to our country in terms of the weather yesterday and to a certain degree today as well. We started off reporting to you of the inclement weather that was coming in from the Met Department around 2 p.m. yesterday. We received a red notice from the Met Department saying that a depression area has developed over the country and it is moving away from the country. As it moves away, according to the Met Department, the depression could increase the rainfall and the strong winds that are experienced in the area. With what you're seeing here behind me is a timeline as to how this weather developed over the country. According to what we have here, Sri Lanka is right over here, and this is this depression area that the Met Department was talking about. As we speak, we are looking at the details pertaining to the weather conditions around 1 p.m. yesterday. As you can see very clearly, there is the depression right next to our country in the western parts of the island, and the wind is strong in the southmost part of our island as well as the western part of the country. According to the details on the Wind2Sky website, winds of up to 38 miles per hour was experienced in and around the west and the southwest parts of our country. If I am to move on to the other days in terms of the weather forecast, if we move forward, this is the situation at 7 p.m. yesterday. Though the depression has moved slightly away from the country towards the Arabian Sea area, the wind effect, the strong winds that were reported still continued, and this is when around 7 p.m. To 8 p.m. was when people living in the western part and the southmost part of our country started experiencing the adverse weather and started experiencing the impact of the weather in the country. As we move on today, we are looking at, this is the 30th today, starting off from 4 a.m. in the morning. The depression area is rapidly moving away from the country towards India and towards the Arabian Sea onto this side. At around 1 p.m. today, this was the situation around the country. Though the depression has completely moved away from India, there was still heavy winds experienced in some parts of Colombo as well as the southern area. Now, if you take a look at the Galle district, lots of rainfall and heavy strong winds were reported in this portion because of this depression, and as a result there was a lot of property damage as well as damage to various buildings and human beings as well reported in this area. Now, if you go further into 2 hours from now, this is the situation. Though the rains have completely stopped in Colombo and the surrounding areas, the impact of this deep depression that is going away from the country has not completely gone down. We still see some form of strong winds and rain in this area, especially affecting Colombo, the Galle and the south parts of the country. Now, the impact of the weather yesterday resulted in various property damages and even injuries to human beings. We have a visual outlay, a visual timeline of how it all unfolded. Let's have a look. As you can see from this map, there is another system developing onto the east side of our country, and Newsfirst Ramesh Irugal Bandara had the opportunity to talk to Professor Charita Pattiarachi a short while ago, and we asked him as to what the weather forecast for the coming few days will be.
This is what's happening right now. So this is the depression that is going through. This is showing the wind. So basically going around. This is the center of the depression. So this is the wind which is coming through as it goes around. And then what we will also see is the rain. So the depression is here. A lot of the rain is actually falling on the ocean. But we also have rain which is falling. So after maybe midnight today, it'll be raining probably till tomorrow morning.
Okay, that is because the outer rim of this weather system?
What happens is that it's the outer part, but the winds are onshore. So the winds have the moisture, and the moisture is actually bringing it to the land.
So is this what they call the center of the storm?
This is the center of the storm.
And it is gradually moving away from...
It's gradually moving away from the system.
Right.
But it still have that wind, so that cyclonic wind that you have is actually still affecting. So the winds are much, much weaker than what we experienced yesterday.
Okay.
But we will still have the remnant of the rain.
So, in your professional opinion, how long do you think that this weather system will affect the country in terms of precipitation?
Precipitation maybe for another 12, maximum of about 24 hours.
24 hours, right.
But it probably will gradually decrease as you go through.
Now, we had a satellite image of the weather system before.
So this was last Tuesday, and the system was off the southwest coast, southeast coast, so you can see how the winds were, and this system basically tracked across the southern part of Sri Lanka to actually bring that strong winds that we experienced last night.
Exactly. Now, there was plenty of damage that was caused due to the strong winds that we experienced last night. So, the eye of the storm moving across the country is what caused the strong winds?
The eye is actually has no wind.
Okay.
The eye, you can actually see is blue color, so it's the weakest part.
Right.
But what actually happens is that this part, so as the eye went past, the winds behind the eye is the one which actually caused. So you can imagine if you actually put that center here, those winds were basically coming across.
Right. Now we
experience, I think, up to about 70 kilometers an hour.
That
it doesn't make
it
a cyclone. It makes it a tropical storm.
It makes it a tropical storm. Right. Now we heard that another system was moving in towards the Bay of Bengal from the Malaysian region.
Yes. So it has been forming north of Sumatra. So this is the system that is as it is now. This is the system that affected. And as we go through to Monday, that system will actually come closer to Sri Lanka, but it's definitely not going to affect the southern part, mainly to the northern part of Sri Lanka. Because the tropical cyclones or these depressions cannot track south.
Okay.
It can only go northwards, so it cannot change its route and come to Sri Lanka. It can only go north. So it will affect the east coast of
India. So the current prediction is that the system will move towards Sri Lanka, but move towards India as
so you would have maybe strong winds on the coastal areas and some rain in that part. Yes.
Now, Sri Lanka has been experiencing weather-related disasters pretty frequently over the past couple of years. There have been concerns about climate change as well. Is this an anomaly?
This is depends on what you call an anomaly. In the 1950s and 60s, we were affected by at least one of these systems every year.
Okay.
In about the 1960s, that system changed. And it basically became once every 5 years or once every 7 years.
Right.
And a lot of them were actually forming in the southern part of Bay of Bengal and moving northwards, not affecting Sri Lanka. But when you have the conditions that are conducive for these systems to form, then you have more than one forming. So when you have one system forming, it's more likely another one will form, which is what we are seeing.
Now, you are a resident of Australia,
yeah.
And before you told me that in Australia you've experienced more stronger systems pretty frequently.
Well, this type of winds we experience maybe 5 to 10 times a year. And so we take precautions. We make sure the roofs are properly fastened. We don't actually have stray
objects that could fly around.
Exactly. So in Australia, for example, there's a big push to have underground power.
Okay.
So that you don't actually have power poles or coming down. So those are all as a response to these weather systems.
So disaster mitigation is the key, disaster preparedness.
There's two things. There's disaster preparedness, but also to be prepared, you need to have a warning. So they both have to work. So this system, we have an idea last Friday that it was brewing, that was a possibility is coming, and then people had actually time to be able to prepare. Now we know maybe Monday or Tuesday next week we may have another system, so now we actually have some more time to actually properly prepare.
Prepare for the next system that is coming in.
And unfortunately, with our systems, we are reactive, not proactive.
Yes.
We only respond to when something happens, rather than actually saying something's going to happen and prepare for it.
We showed you how the adverse weather conditions had affected the areas surrounding Colombo and the Galle district a short while ago. We also have footage coming in from all parts of the island through our correspondents that depict the extent or the damage this weather has caused on the country. Let's have a look. As a result of this inclement weather, several dams of reservoirs were also opened up. Now, the Met Department advises people living in the lowlands, living on the either side of riverbanks to remain vigilant. Even though this depression situation is moving away from the country, people living on the lowlands should be vigilant of possible increases in water levels at reservoirs and rivers, which could result in flooding. We also have visuals from several key reservoirs around the island where the water gates or the dams were opened up.
The heavy showers have prompted the opening of 4 spill gates of the Upper Kothmale Reservoir and 2 spill gates of the Kukuleganga Reservoir. Meanwhile, the Irrigation Department warned that the water levels of the Kalu, Nilwala and Ging rivers are on the rise. 1 spill gate of the Rantame Reservoir was open for 3 hours today. KKTV Rajaratna, the duty engineer at the Rantambe and Randanikala reservoirs, called on the public living in Minipe, Hasalaka and Handaganawa to remain vigilant. The water level of the Kothmale Reservoir is also on the rise. Regional Irrigation Engineer R.D.A. Deshapriya said 2 of the 8 spill gates at the Dadiroya Reservoir have been opened by 6 inches each to relieve pressure on the dam.
One person was injured after a tree fell onto a three-wheeler in Totalanga. A number of houses were damaged by gale force winds in Blomendal last night. Extensive property damage was reported from Maradana, Reed Avenue, Torrington and Gregory's Road. 2 cars were damaged when a tree was uprooted. A 48-year-old man was killed when a tree fell onto a lorry at the Jayanti Mahal junction in Hunupitia. Electricity cables were damaged by winds that swept across Mabima and Heyantuduwa. The power supply had not been re-established as of this evening. Extensive property damage was caused when a tree fell into a car park on Temple Road in Mount Lavinia. Close to 150 homes were damaged by strong winds that swept across Henamulla in Madampitia. Workers were dispatched by the Colombo Municipal Council early this morning to clear the debris of fallen trees. The CMC notes steps have also been taken to repair flooded roads and drainage systems.
Tonight our workers will be dedicated to cleaning up debris caused by uprooted trees near water sources and other places considered difficult to access. We hope to complete the cleanup operations by tomorrow morning and bring the city of Colombo back to its glory.
A 57-year-old father of three was killed when a tree fell onto an electricity post in Alpitia, Godakavela on the Ambili-Pitya-Ratnapura main road. Our correspondent noted the area had been without power as of this evening. A woman was injured and had to be hospitalized after a tree fell onto a house in Potupitiya, Wadua. About 40 homes were inundated in Norwood and Bogavantalawa in Hatton. Our correspondent noted about 333 people from 74 families have been displaced. The displaced are being temporarily sheltered at the Norwood Tamil Mahavidyalaya. Earth embankments had collapsed onto the Badulla-Colombo railway line near the Demodara station, blocking the tracks. Cut failures were also reported in Bandaravela and Beragala. Our correspondent reported heavy mist conditions in Haputale.
The Fisheries Department reported that 7 boats that set sail for fishing are missing. 12 fishermen aboard these vessels are unaccounted for.
The 7 boats had set off to sea from the Dodamdua fisheries harbour. 2 fishermen are reported dead. It took about 10 minutes for the ship to reach the shore. A wave toppled it over. 3 people got cast away. I got entangled in a net that was aboard the boat. We could not see anything in the dark. A multi-day fishing trawler that set off to sea from the Devinuara fisheries harbour had washed ashore in the Kahamodara area in the Hungama police division. 5 fishermen had been aboard this trawler. 4 of the 5 affected fishermen were saved. Search and rescue operations have been launched to locate the missing fishermen. A vessel that attempted to travel to Australia illegally was caught up in the inclement weather conditions. The damaged vessel washed up on the shores of an island in the Arachikatua area. 35 people had been on board the vessel when it was affected. 31 have been arrested by police.
The President's Media Division says that President Sirisena has been issuing instructions to disaster management authorities whilst on the state visit to South Korea.
We began taking the necessary steps since last night. We have deployed the police, the Air Force, the Navy and divers. Teams have also been dispatched to clear fallen trees in the Colombo district and other affected areas. The Electricity Board has made strides in re-establishing the electricity supply. We are aware that some areas are still without power, and we have been informed that the Electricity Board is working towards re-establishing the power supply there as well. We have reached an agreement to release 10,000 rupees for each family affected by the disaster from the insurance fund, and the ministry is working to disperse these funds.